evening, everyone. Usually, Christopher Nyonchuti is my name, and I'll be talking about uh, the problems that that was caused by COVID-19 on the side of businesses. You can see here that those are the challenges that happened to those countries, specifically on the side of business due to COVID-19. You can see that firstly, it led to reduction in the level of production where companies started to produce less due to a low number of customers. It also led to low standard of living where people started to live in bad life due to not having enough needs and their wants. It also made some business to close where some business were forced to lock their doors and they were not allowed to make transaction. It also led to people's loss of life, where people in the beginning, before the introduction of vaccine, people were dying day and night because they were not able to support the danger of this pandemic. Here, uh, there were the method that were used to mitigate the effect of COVID-19, where the companies introduced uh, the way the new method of trading, which is called e-commerce, where the services or, or commodities were somehow uh, traded online without physical interaction. They also introduced the new method of home delivery, where uh, companies or customers were interacting via online and they can share commodities uh, without going to the trader. The trader could do uh, could do take the commodities to the seller, to the buyer. Yeah. These are also other measures that were taken to deal with COVID on the side of business. They converted in operating remotely, working from home, where some businesses started to work at home because they were not able to or allowed to trade their commodities as in the place where they used it to. They also introduction of health protocol where they set some rules. I mean, government set some rules that help people to live healthy uh, in that pandemic. They also adapted to shifting consumer behavior through diversification. Also, innovation is another point where they implemented and they maintained their competitiveness. Uh, they also make dependence on government assistance for financial support, where some business lost their capitals, due to those reduction in time of production. Uh, the government provided them some financial support so that they can continue running. Uh, there were also supply chain management uh, that led to successfully handled disturbances. On this slide, the positive effect that were caused by COVID-19. You know that everything has a negative side and a positive side. These are the positive effect that were caused by COVID-19. You know, first the business began to utilize technology more frequently for online communication and distance work, where in the beginning they didn't use this technique of online trading, but after the introduction of online trading was started to be used. Due to technology and the remote labor, many organizations has improved the efficiency where they provide the services effectively considered to the way they were doing it before. Online sales, education and healthcare now have new opportunities. Uh, the also business began to give their workers health and well-being more consideration, where some business sensitized to their workers to take some vaccine so that they can prevent themselves from being attacked by that pandemic. Also, by assisting their communities throughout the pandemic, the business demonstrated the increased social responsibility. Healthcare innovation such as creation of innovation and medication, even vaccine. Uh, I would like to end this by thank you for this time you've taken this time to pay attention to this presentation, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Challenges that happened to the country due to COVID-19.
To introduce it, I will start with Madam Aisetu Sanogo. She's the managing director at Kasha. We also have Mr. Ron Kawamara, who is the Jumia Uganda CEO, and Mr. Albert Munyavjingo, who is the co-founder and CEO of Vuba Vuba Africa Limited. Now, if you want to be part of this conversation, tweet us at CNBC Africa, or you could tag me directly at The Real Quizzer. Now, quickly to dive into this conversation, I want to start with you, Madam Sanogo. Consumer behavior over the past, let's say, 12 to 14 months has largely changed. How has that been in effect when it came to the operations of Kasha?
Thank you, Arnold. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here at CNBC. I would say COVID definitely affected most businesses during the last 12 months, but definitely not the e-commerce business as negatively as the others. For example, Kasha Rwanda, we sell hygiene and pharma products, and including COVID protection products. And due to that, we're one of the services allowed to work during the COVID pandemic. And I would say in the last 12 years, we literally had a growth of 700%. So I would say the pandemic had an effect to us, which wasn't that negative, but instead we saw largely a growth. And this was mostly due to regulation around COVID, let's say social distancing regulation that they had put on the government, and whereby you do not need to go to shops, you do not travel, but instead you reach e-commerce companies. So, for example, we have a network of agents that we use who are women, reach rural areas. These women income stayed on due to the pandemic. And not only that, it also increased because the demand was so high and they could see their income increasing every month to the point that now we literally increased the network of agents to 400%.
Albert, I want to bring you into the conversation. Yours was more or less a new company, born just before the pandemic, tapping into a gap that had been left by a previous player. How did the pandemic impact you?
Thank you very much, Arnold. My pleasure to be on this panel. So if I look at it in two angles, I mean, we had the first COVID case in Rwanda back in March 2020, and that was 2 months after we had launched our operations in the country. So this has, came in as a booster in terms of new customers acquisition, because if you compare numbers from Feb 2020